Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be ranking every Percy Jackson book. Now I'm going to be excluding books that has a crossover between Percy Jackson and the Kane Chronicles. And I'm going to be including Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Apollo. So let's get started. 15. The Trials of Apollo, the Tyrant's Tome. Now I feel kind of bad for putting this one as the worst one. But honestly, it does deserve it because I felt like there was nothing new in concept for this book. And I just felt like the book didn't really play its course off well. So that's why I felt like the book isn't, the greatest. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. It's not a great book to read. 14. The Trials of Apollo, the Dark Prophecy. So actually, I gotta be honest, this book series isn't the greatest. And yes, I know these books are technically different book series, but they're part of the Percy Jackson universe, and that's why I'm including them. But back to the topic, I really don't like this book. It's slightly better because there is some interesting parts here and there. But still, if you're really interested in rereading this book, go ahead. But I strongly agree that it's not a great book to check out. 13. The Trials of Apollo, the Burning Maze. Now, the quality of this picture isn't that great, so I'm really sorry. But anyway, this book is, again, not the greatest to, reread. And it's just not really a book that I would recommend to anyone, again, because, yeah, it's just the Trials of Apollo books don't really do it for me. It's just not really that, great. And it just kind of got me lost and not really interested in reading more. But I read everything, so whatever. 12. The Heroes of Olympus, the Son of Neptune. So this is the first ranked of Heroes of Olympus. I say this is the worst one because it didn't really add anything special to the table. And if you guys are disagreeing with me, I can understand. But I'm just saying that the book wasn't really a book that would be interesting to some people. But I really wish the books had something, special. But the book kind of copied from the other books. So I wish it was more decent. 11. The Heroes of Olympus, the House of Hades. So this book had at least some good concepts. And honestly, it's kind of decent, but it's also a book that I wouldn't really reread again because I read it myself and it's not the greatest in the Percy Jackson series. So I would say I would put it here because it's I'm kind of mixed around this book. Some parts are good, but some parts are also not good. 10. The Trials of Apollo, the Tower of Nero. So this is the last Trials of Apollo book, and it is actually a really good conclusion book. I'll give myself that. But it's still not one of the greatest books ever. At least it's a bit decent to have this end off like this. But honestly, I think the other books have a better ending than this one. 9. The Heroes of Olympus, the Mark of India. I don't know how you say that. But anyway, this is another Heroes of Olympus book. And actually, this is a really decent book. At least it had something, tried something a little bit new. And while, yes, it has copied from, some other books, borrowed. That's what I should have said. It's still, a really decent book. And you should go check it out. It is definitely a book I would recommend to anyone. 8. The Trials of Apollo, the Hidden Oracle. This is the very first Trials of Apollo book. And this book is basically much better than the other Trials of Apollo books. I wish it followed the same template as this book, but hey, at least it did something. They tried to do something different, and while it didn't really do great, it's still a really decent book, and it's much better than the other Trials of Apollo books because they should have just followed this concept of being different instead of just borrowing stuff. Ugh. 7. The Heroes of Olympus, the Blood of Olympus. So this is the final Heroes of Olympus book, and they went all in, and while they definitely borrowed, from other, books, it's definitely one of the best finales in a book series ever, because it had some charm, some just really good stuff, like really not thriller, but like epic fantasy aspects, and definitely a book that I would recommend to anyone who like loves Percy Jackson and loves this kind of series. 6. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Battle of the Labyrinth. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of mouthfuls when it comes to Percy Jackson. So I said this one would be the worst one for the first to rank Percy Jackson books. Not that it's bad or anything, but like at least, but it like kind of tried, but kind of borrowed from other books. But hey, at least it's a really good book. It's a book that is actually really good, and definitely a book that I would be very interested to tell you about. But I will never tell you because I don't want to spoil anything to other viewers. You know what I mean? 5. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Titan's Curse. I actually was going to rank this somewhere else in the video, but like I forgot to notice, and now I noticed. So I'm just going to rank it here, and honestly, I'm actually glad I made this change, because it is a really good book. The third book, like, definitely, like made the book, like, a lot more better than the other two books. Like, sort of, but hey, at least it was a book that was pretty decent, and honestly, it's just a book that I just loved, even though it's number 5. Oops. 4. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Last Olympian. This is the last Percy Jackson book that was released, and before, Heroes Olympus started. And this book is a really good finale book, and it's much better than the other one because it actually had more like emotions, more depth. Everything was beautiful, and it's honestly one of the best conclusions to a book series. But also, there's another one which you might have already known, but still, this is a really good conclusion. 3. The Heroes Olympus, The Lost Hero. So this is the very first Heroes of Olympus book, and is a basically like kind of like a sequel to it. And this is like a really good like first book of a spin-off / sequel series. It's a book that is just so good. It just has so much like charm, so much depth. Everything is the reason why like many people go and read this book, and it's just a book that you would never stop reading, like myself, even though I've never read it. But still, this is a fantastic book. 2. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This is the very first Percy Jackson book, and honestly, one of the greatest books that I've ever read. It's like a book that has so much like emotion, so much charm, so much everything. It's just so good. Like, if it was bad, I would be upset, but it's definitely a really good start to an epic series of fantasy and all these kind of things. And if it wasn't for this book, maybe the author would never get this popularity. But there's another book that I really think really hit his mark on the popularity, and that is 1. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Sea of Monsters. The sequel to the other book that I just talked about, The Lightning Thief, is much, much better, and definitely peaked to the author, and which is why he has so many Percy Jackson books and has other books that made him the most household name in book popularity. And I honestly love this book. It is also one of the greatest books that I've ever read, and it's just a book that I just loved so much. And it's just honestly a lot better, has better story, better depth, just better everything to make the story so amazing. Thanks for watching my Percy Jackson ranking series, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.